This is Saeed Younan, DJ, producer, and label boss at Younan Music, and you are listening to Liverpool Connection Podcast, music and football episodes.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm your host Daz. This is my music and football episode. I always say this, I usually bring on people that love music and football. Lately, I've just been bringing on people that love music, and that's okay because I love my music and my football. World Cup's going on as well, so there's tons of footy out there. But today it's all about music. I've got DJ, producer, and label boss of Younan Music. I've got Saeed Younan. I think many of you might know him from back in the day as well as Saeed and Palesh with his production partner. But he's on his own now and he's putting out still quality. I think my first record from him probably about 96. So that's probably showing my age and his age as well. Saeed, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
You know, lots to talk about. I know you're not big into footy, you know, which is okay. You know, again, I've got it's the music, it's the football, and then usually my guests will look behind me and go, Jesus Christ, at my trainers. I'm a absolute nutter when it comes to Adidas. They're all...
Ask you about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're all originals. Most of them still have tags on. I've got the original boxes and everything, but yeah, I've just collected them since I was 16. You know, when I was a kid, my parents just couldn't or wouldn't buy me a pair. So when I was 16 on my first job, I went straight to the shop and I bought myself, and I haven't looked back since. So enough of that. This is your hour. Let's start off, obviously, you know, the Iraq connection, which I think is really cool. You know, as I explained, my dad used to work in Iraq, in Baghdad as well, and the outskirts, stone crushing plants. So he used to, you know, bring me loads of photographs back. He used to tell me how amazing, you know, the people from Baghdad were. He was actually there during the Revolutionary War. So he actually smuggled bullets out, which that's crazy at that time because you could get slapped in prison. And I've got a crazy story where they wouldn't let him leave the country because he'd grown his beard and his hair long, and they were like, "This is not you." So he had to get a razor and scissors, cut his hair, shave his beard, then go, "Hello, it's me." So then they let him out. But let's go back to your childhood. I always like to know what was playing in your house as a kid. Did it have influence on you growing up, you know, musically?
Yeah, I mean, music was definitely a big part of me growing up, young. You know, it was back in Iraq. It was me and I had two sisters. Well, I have two sisters. I'm the one in the middle as far as the age goes. We grew up, I mean, we didn't have much. We had like terrestrial radio. So we would dial in on the radio, trying to find European stations. Once in a while, like we'll have like a station where you can tap into European station. You'll hear like ABBA, little disco stuff and things like that. For me, I always had like a cassette tape in the player ready to just hit record whatever comes on, just to have something to listen back to, especially when you're trying to dial into a signal, because it's almost slim to none of a chance you get a proper signal to listen to some music. So once you find that signal, you kind of hone in on it, have a tape already in the decks, and just, you know, hit record so I can always go back and listen to stuff. Aside from that, we also, next to where we lived, there was a big, it's like I guess you would call it a country club back in Baghdad. So it's like I don't recall if it was a private club or anybody can enter. All I know is like my grandfather, my mom, and my dad would always take, because they're on the weekend, there was always a band playing. So they'll have a band, everybody drinks, they have food. and I was just always into the music, watching the band play. They're playing the doumbek, playing all the Arabic instruments, and the flutes, the horns, the whole thing. And I'm just like really intrigued. But the music was obviously very Middle Eastern Arabic, but I was taking that idea of the music and kind of incorporating into what I'm hearing on the European radio and kind of trying to gel the two together. And I think that's where my whole percussion and tribal thing meets the dance music came from. It's just, I was really intrigued by the Middle Eastern percussion instrument, but I love the European sound, the disco, the stuff that I was getting on the radio. And that kind of inspired me from day one to really get into like, okay, how is this music being made? How is it being played? How is it being created? I know when I see a live band in that country club, how they're doing things, but how are these people on the radio or creating that like almost electronic sound, so because I had no clue of, synthesizers, arpeggio, or none of that, but I was hearing it. I was seeing it's like, why are these people like sound this way and these people sound this way? So it became a really, I was really intrigued by it to figure out how all this came together. So at a young age, that's when my mind started kind of trying to wrap my head around music and how it was being made before even knowing what DJing is. This is like, I've never even seen a DJ yet. So this was just like about, why is this music made this way? Why did in Iraq do I hear these people playing that way and on the radio it sounds that way? It's like, how does these worlds can come together? And that was for me really interesting at a young age.
So you left Iraq early on, right?
Yeah, I was so the way we left is, this is my mom actually told me the story recently because I didn't even know about this. So apparently when I was young, about 9 years old, the bus pulled up in front of our house and I wasn't on the bus, and my mom freaked out. So she went to the school and she grabbed me and she told, and this is, by the way, this is before she knew, I was after school. They had a special camp for the boys where we were training to become into the army. So she came and pulled me. She's like, where have you been? And I told her that my sergeant, I'm not allowed to tell you where I was because my sergeant, we're not allowed to tell anybody. And she flipped out. She goes, what? You can't tell me I'm your mom? I'm like, yeah, that's what I was told. I'm not allowed to tell anybody. And all she sees, I was in an army outfit. So she already kind of knew what was going on. It was like a blue, I have a picture of it. It was like a blue outfit or something they gave you with a hat. So it's training you to be in the army. So right there and then, she's like, okay, she had to talk with my dad. Like, we know what's going to happen. They're going to pull him in. They're going to pull him into the army at a young age, train him, and we're going to lose the only boy, son we have. So they started kind of packing their stuffs, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to go a little vacation. We're going to go to London, England to visit. My dad had 2 brothers there. We're going to go visit your uncles. And this is just going to be a quick vacation. Just pack a few things, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Put a couple of things in the bag. We were telling all of our friends, everybody, we're just going for a little vacation. And we end up hopping on a plane and never coming back. We left everything behind. Cars. We had a beautiful home. Our clothes. Literally, we had a couple of suitcases as we were going on a vacation. And we just booked out of the country, left and went to London. Try to get our paperwork. So I think we're there. We lived in London for about a year. My dad was trying to get our paperwork done so we can move over to the United States. And yeah, it was crazy, man, because I couldn't speak a word of English, nothing. Neither did my sisters. Thankfully, my mom was an English teacher in Iraq at an all-female university, so she can speak English really well. My dad was also like fluent spoke English. So, but me and my sisters, we had no language barrier. So coming to London, then going to US, it was just like a night and day scenario. Like we just didn't know what we were getting into. It was a big shock for us.
Yeah, I think you hear that a lot. Even my dad, when he worked over there, said 2 of his workers went missing because they bolted out the country. It was just like that window where it's like, if we don't leave now, we will never leave. And,
exactly.
It's just, when you see Iraq on the map, some people think like, oh, third world country, I mean, like when I was growing up, I didn't know much about it until my dad told me everything and showed me pictures. I was like, wow, you know, some like extravagant houses and everything, cars as well, Mercedes. You just like, but they've got all like, you know, sand dust all over them, you know. But he told me some great stories. But I think especially musically as well, you know, we look like, and it must be amazing to be able to tune in on a radio and hear stuff that you've never heard before. And for me, I'm just like you. I need to know how that music was made. You know, it just sticks in my ear. And you know, same with a band. You see a band, and you just like you can see what's playing. You know, if it's a guitar or drums. But when you hear electronic music, or at that time like more disco or Italo house, you know, you're like, how are they making these sounds? A guitar doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like a drum. So yeah, it's kind of cool. But yeah, it must have been an eye-opener for you to, you know, I mean, London, like, I mean, England is a lot different than the US. You know, the US is so much bigger. I mean, for me, when I moved over there, I moved over here, you know, later on in life, but I still am in awe at how big this country is. It's huge. I mean, for England, you can go from the tip of Cornwall to Scotland 5-6 hours. You can't get out of Texas in 6 hours, you know? So it's just mental. So for a wide-eyed, you know, Iraqi like yourself going, oh, wow, I'm not speaking, you know, very good English. That's got to be like, you know.
Well, what was really also like a shock when we got to London, it was the punk era. So, like on top of that, that's add another layer of a shock for us. Like seeing people walk around with mohawks or like 3 feet tall, all red, and you know, piercing. Like I have never seen. Like it was like another planet. So it's like not just the language barrier, but just the walking into that is like whoa. You know, it's like. I remember it's funny, like one of my favorite artists still to this day, and I have all his vinyl albums, is Adam Ant. You remember Adam Ant back in the day? Yeah. So I grew up on like Adam Ant, and my dad was flipping out because, you know, Adam Ant was heavy onto makeup and stuff. And, you know, being with an Iraqi father, he's like, look at it, like, what are you listening to? What is this? I was like, no, he's just not getting. Then after that, we got into, you know, I got into Culture Club. So it was all those, you know, flamboyant type of the sound, and my parents were just not getting it. But yeah, it was a huge shock. Then, so we had that first shock, and yeah, coming to the US was the second shock of like the country itself, how big it is, but it was like weird. Like London had its own vibe, like its own shock with the whole punk scene. Then when I came to the United States, I think the first thing I noticed, everybody jogging here. That's like the memory I have. I don't know why, as a young kid, everybody walking around with shorts, and they're all joggers. And why is everybody jogging here? Because you don't see that in Iraq. Nobody, unless you're running from someone or something. These people are running for no reason. So it was a huge, like a weird thing for me just to see that. So that's the thing I remember about US first coming here is the amount of joggers, people just jogging for no reason.
Yeah, with the sweatbands.
Yeah, exactly.
The ones on the head. Yeah, I remember that as well. But like I didn't think you could make shorts that short.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but they can. Yeah, it's just a different vibe. You know, every country has obviously, you know, different culture, different kind of fashion. But going back to like Adam Ant, I was a massive fan of Adam Ant as well. Not only because like I'd never seen somebody dressed like a really cool pirate, basically, but he was a highwayman. But it was those double drums.
Yeah.
You know, the two drummers, just the sound that came from it was just so different than something. And you know,
and the horn section, he had the horn section. Yeah. It was beautiful, like it.
But I mean, he was like post-punk to me. You know, you had the Sex Pistols, but they couldn't really play their music. It was just one or two chords, while Adam Ant and a few more that came after him on the post-punk side, there were more musicality to them, you know, and they could actually play their instruments. But yeah, I always remember the double drums, and I was just like, that is a sound that I like, you know, because I'd never heard it before, you know. Yeah. There wasn't anybody really double drumming. And because we used to watch, Top of the Pops.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, every Thursday night, I'd see that and I'd just get into it. And then, my mum would just laugh like, who is this clown in this makeup and stuff? And my sister loved
Did
it.
that line across the face, the white. I had a poster of that in my bedroom. It was like freaking out my parents with his pirate jacket, the line across his face, the white lines. Dude, some of the best, like I still have his cassettes. I forgot the store I used to buy it from when I was down there. And I have the records, all of his albums. Well, not all. I have 3 of his albums. I have the one when Adam and the Ants, when he was with his group. And then when I think he went solo, there's The Friend and Foe, I think was the name of the album. But yeah, I have like 3 or 4 of his albums. I love his stuff.
He's still like, obviously I know he had like a mental health issues. But I saw he went back on tour last summer and he's still nailing it, it's like him and Billy Idol can still rock out. I love that.
Did you see the recent Billy Idol documentary? It's pretty crazy, like how close to death he's been every time.
Yeah, well, not just drugs, but on the motorcycle and everything, and just how many pins did he have in his leg? It's just insane.
That's got like a Cat 9 life type of deal,
Yeah. You look back and you just like it's. People kind of talk about like the Rolling Stones. They look like they're in the late 80s and 90s. I'm like, you know what? If they can still play the tunes, if they can still sing, what's wrong with that? Some of the youngsters will probably cringe going, oh my God, they look horrible on stage. I don't care. I'm not there for the looks. It's what comes out. Like I always say, what comes out the speakers is what I'm interested in, Like all you need to do, if you don't want to look at them, just close your eyes, But for you,
for the that's when you're on the road touring like that. I think when you're not on the road, that's when it feels off, because for them they've been doing it for so long, like the Rolling Stones. It's like it feels off if they're not on the road. So like that's their life. It becomes part of you. And God bless them, man. They're killing it, So
yeah, same with Adam, same with Billy, still doing it, And to me, that shows there's the longevity in the music business. We're at a point, I think now, where there's going to be a curve. These TikTok DJs and producers, they are going to go, and you'll never hear from them again.
They're going to go TikTok.
yeah, TikTok, bye-bye. Well, longevity, like yourself, I know you're in this business. It's nice to make money. Come on, we're not going to, you want to make a living, doing your art. But if it was down to like, not making money, but still making your art, you'd still do it, While you've got the other side, it's like they think it's champagne, caviar, and, private jets. That's what they want to do. And then like throw cake at people and stuff like that nonsense. I am so far removed from that. I don't understand it, but I know there's a market there for it. But, I know you're in it for the real reasons. So when did DJing start? I know it started early because, earlier you told me the high school story, which I would have probably done the same thing. Hopefully you'll tell the story again. But yeah, where did, the DJing start for you?
DJing, yeah, I think the first time, I'm pretty sure the first time is actually a picture of it, which is really strange. The first time I ever saw a DJ was at my sister's, I don't know if it's a birthday party, possibly, maybe her. Yeah, she was like, it's a birthday party. It's when we just got to the U.S., but there was a female DJ. My mom threw a party, and there was this lady DJ. She had like a box. It wasn't turntables, but she was mixing. I can't figure. I don't know if it was like those CDs with the dialers. Remember the Dan-ins where you had to push positive, negatives in order. I think she had that, the rack mount, and she was like not necessarily mixing like a normal DJ would because it was a birthday party, but she was putting one track after the next, and I was really intrigued by the way she was doing things. So one of my aunts or uncles took a picture of me, and I'm just standing right next to her, just like doing like a little kid, just like peeking into her console and trying to look at to see what she's doing. And just like mesmerized by it, like, oh man, she's like layering the music. She had a little fader and working the music. So that was like the first time I actually saw a DJ. But all that pushed aside, in high school, I met a buddy. His name was, I went to a high school named Marshall, and my buddy was named as Marshall also. It's this kind of strange thing. So this guy Marshall, which later we got to actually connect in Seattle, his wife brought him to one of my gigs as a surprise, which is really wild. Like it all comes full circle, but I'll begin with the beginning of the story. So I met this kid in English class named Marshall. He was telling me that he's a good friend of Sir Mix-a-Lot, that he used to know Mix-a-Lot, or his father knew Mix-a-Lot, and he was handed down some turntables and a mixer. There were realistic turntables from Radio Shack, nothing special. He's like, I have them at the house. If you want to come out. And at first, when he told me he knew Sir Mix, I was like, yeah, no, you don't know. He was like, no, come over. I'll show you what I have from him. I have a picture and everything. So we went to his house. He showed me that he knew Sir Mix-a-Lot, which was really wild. That I don't know how he knew him. He moved from another state, and he had met Sir Mix-a-Lot, so they became friends. And he had two realistic turntables and a mixer. He started putting on hip hop records. He's mixing. With the realistic turntables back in the day, there's no way you can scratch or anything because it's a bell-driven turntable. You have to stack a nickel or a quarter or not a quarter, like a dime or a penny on the needle. So we're doing like basic scratching. We're playing around, and dude, like at the first day seeing this, I caught on. Like I was like, this is incredible. Like you can scratch, you can mix, you can do all this stuff. After maybe a month or so, we started skipping English class to go to his house to mix some records, and that was like the craziest. Like, we'll skip the class, we'll go mix, because it was like, I think it was the last class of the day, so we could skip that, go mix before his parents get home, mess around with the turntables, and then I leave home. So we did that for a while. We started playing around, and then this was actually 11th grade, so we started messing around with the turntables. 12th grade came around. He's like, look, I can't use these turntables anymore. My parents are going to send me off to the to the Navy or the Army instead of going to college. He's going to move on. So instead of giving this to anybody, I'm going to give you the realistic turntables and mixer. I was like enthralled, man. I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, it's yours. I know you love them. Do whatever you want with them. I took them home, set them up exactly like how I hear them set them up. I hooked up the mixer, hooked up the turntable, started practicing, started going to Tower Record. I had a Tower Record down the street, so I would go buy some records. I would buy only hip hop at first. Then I started, going to the section of Tower Record where they had a small section of dance music, like not big. Like they had a whole long section of hip hop, R&B, and then a small section of dance music. There's a lady that worked there that was like kind of helping me go through house records, picking out house music. So I started checking out some house records. I started getting booked at house parties. It became like a standard in high school that if you don't have a DJ, or at least me DJing, it's not a worth house party going to. So it became a standard to have a DJ at these house parties. So everybody started competing, having DJs. This was like at 12th grade. So like I would have like 2 or 3 house parties a night to DJ. So we'll hop from one to the next, because it became like, if you don't have the DJ, people like, it's not worth going to. So it became like a staple to either have me or somebody else to DJ the party. So I started doing house parties again, dominated by more hip hop. So I was playing a lot of hip hop. I'll throw in some house tracks here and there. Then the school found out that I'm DJing, so they reached out to me like, hey, we found out you're DJing. Do you want to do the high school prom party? I'm like, hell yeah, I'll play this prom party. At that time, I had already asked a girl to be my prom date, so I had to break the news to her. I'd be like, hey, we're going to prom, don't worry, but just so you know, I'm also going to be DJing, but it's going to be the same. I'm still going to come in the limo, we're going to pick you up. If you hear anything in the background, I have a guy doing a blower out here, so I don't know if you can hear it or not, so just to let you know. But yeah, so I picked the girl up, we went to the prom. I show up with all my buddies with a trunk full of equipment, full on suit, everything like prom. She's with the prom dress. We set up our equipment. I start DJing. She's got her little, I think they call it a corsage. I can't even remember that. You had to buy her a flower to put on her hand. And the whole time I'm DJing, she's sitting on one of the cafeteria stools right next to my equipment. And, and I felt so bad because, like, I'm enjoying DJing. I look at her, I'm like, you're okay? You're good? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's just sitting there with her corsage. I played the entire prom, didn't get a dance with her. But afterward, thankfully, we were able to go out, have dinner and go to a school function type of thing where I didn't have to DJ. But yeah, I got to DJ the high school prom, and even after I graduated high school, they kept on calling me back to do the school dances. We had like 3 dances a year. They did like an outdoor dance, a prom dance, and then some kind of other dance. So I was doing all that. So I was basically trying to get any gig I can get my hands on just to practice the craft, just to DJ. So I was playing all the high school dances. I was doing the house parties. A lot of the parties would be broken up by the cops coming in and breaking up the party. So we had to grab my records and turntables, either head out the garage door, out the window, into the car, and we bailed and go to either the next party or call it a day. But almost every weekend was something like that until, I kind of dived into more house music and, to buying more records, which that took me into college. And then, but to answer your question, that's the start of like how I found the love for DJing, was through my buddy introducing me to turntables, first time looking at turntables, and then kind of taking them on into my own form type of thing.
I think like the romantic in me would have gone, you married the girl that was sat next to you watching you play, because anybody that still goes out to dinner with you after having to, because I'm sure it was like 4 hours at least, right? Yeah. For her to just sit there and just watch you DJ for 4 hours, I mean.
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of girlfriends do that, by the way, throughout my career. They just sit there because I'm DJing. And my wife I'm with now, she was the cashier girl at a club that I DJ'd at. So she was the door cashier while I was DJing, we've been together for like 25 years now. So.
Oh wow, yeah. Music seems to bring people together. I mean, my missus is more of the like Depeche Mode, the 80s synth. She likes that. I mean, she likes Sasha, just because, I mean, who doesn't, I mean, what the music he makes is just incredible, him and Charlie May. But on the rave scene, she can't stand it. I think that's more on because of the drugs and everything, because it's more so like the rave scene in like the late 90s. It was a lot of people went because of the drugs, The music was second. I mean, that to me is just insane. Without the music, the drugs are whatever, Yeah. So she associates it with that, so she doesn't like that kind of, and we've been together like 22 years as well. So, God bless her being with me. I don't know how she does it, but yeah. But I mean, I think that's how a lot of people get started, though, is just they see somebody DJing, and it doesn't really matter like what the setup is. It's you're just so like clued in on like, how have they put that record with that, and like you said, it's not really about mixing. It's always about like, even just fading out. Like I used to listen to Northern Soul. And you can't mix Northern Soul, you just can't. Same with a bit of like early disco. You think you beat match, and then it just puts it off. But it's just how someone seeks one record to another. That's how I was like, oh wow, that's really cool, And
back then we call them selectors. They weren't like necessarily the people who knew how to kind of put things together, not necessarily like mix them though.
Yeah, I mean, your Larry Heard's first started out same like that, playing disco tracks. And Larry Levin, it was just the way they put them together. They told a story, and I know it's cliche, the whole, oh, they took me on a journey. Well, some DJs still do that, and I appreciate that. That's why, like, I still like the DJs I like is because they do take me on a journey. You know, it's a musical like high. It's like a roller coaster. You know, I don't want somebody that just does up and up and up, and they just peak. You know,
Yeah.
and what's the point in that? You know,
And I think that's probably the problem with the sets that you get these days. Like when you and I grew up, we'll go see one DJ, one night, one DJ. Now we go out, we have to see 4 or 5, maybe 6 DJs. And I'm not talking festival. This is in a nightclub. You know, you've got an opener, you got the support artist, and then you've got the main headline, then you got a closer. It's like, come on, it's like way too much, and you don't get to experience that journey anymore. You know, everybody that gets on is just balls to the wall. They want to play the biggest track they have within 90 minutes, or maybe even 60 minutes, and they're out. You know, so it's a whole different. It's a mental game too. It's like you have to think about, like, for me, I'm so old school. Let's say if I'm playing, like, the reason why we can get into it later, like when I went on tour with Carl when he did the US, I was very mindful of where he's going to go with the crowd. I really like studied and understood, and I didn't want to take anything from his set. And it's like, I know my lane, and I'm staying in my lane. So, but I'm still myself. I'm still my sound, but I know where to take it, because it's like, I always tell people DJing is like that Olympic sport where you hand the baton and the next person runs off with it, then they hand it off to the next person. That's exactly how DJing should be. It's you're handing off the baton, then the next person takes it. So I felt like when I played with Carl, or even with Tenaglia and all those guys, like I knew where I need to be in order for them to take it to the next level. Never overstep boundaries, never take it to a ceiling where they have no room to go. Is always give them a threshold of space where they can also give a little atmosphere in their mix. So, and I feel that that's lost nowadays, especially with the younger generation. They just want to come in, bang it out, play the biggest tracks they know, just to, hey, you know, this is my time to shine. And I get it, but they got to understand, if they're being booked for a night, it's the whole night that counts. The promoter is looking at this as a whole night, not just you, how you did. He wants to see how the night did overall. So they're judging the entire spectrum of the night from A to Z. So, and if you talk with the old headlining DJ, and you know what you guys want to do, I think to me that all matters. And I feel like that's been lost. 9 times out of 10, the gigs I go to, they don't know what I'm going to be playing. They don't know. Sometimes they don't even know like what I produce, and they're just in there just trying to network their own thing, which is, like I said, I get it, but it's all about a relationship, a building to create that vibe for the night. For the ultimately, the thing that matters is the people on the dance floor. It's not about me, it's not about you. It's about how do you get to make this enjoyed for everybody that came here, that paid to come to enjoy the night, you know?
Well, it's do your homework, you know. Do your homework on the person that you're opening for. Know their music so you can kind of, you know, if you need to change your music a little bit, still like you said, still be who your personality and your music, but just know who you're playing for. And then, you know, I've always said it though, like if you're a damn good opener, Danny Howells is one of my favorite DJs, because for a long, long time he was known as the opener. You know, he was amazing. That was his craft. He honed it very well, and now he's getting his just rewards over the last, you know, 10, 15 years, is because he's given the headliners respect, and they remember that. You know, so next time when they're in town, I mean, it was a lot better in I'm not going to say better in our day. What I'm trying to say is, like, headlining DJs could request who they wanted to open for them. So they already knew the night was going to do well. Now, you know, the headliner just gets there, doesn't know who went on before them, you know, and usually 10 minutes before they go in the booth, you know, and then you do your thing. You know, we need to get back to, like, really, like, the opening DJ, not this 1 hour slot. Give them 2.5 hours to kind of make the night theirs, and then hand it off.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, give him 2 hours. Give the headliner 2 hours. That's 4 hours. You may need a closer, you may not, but two DJs. That's all you need in one night. The opener and the headliner, and you're good to go. And but some of these people, it's like they think the more DJs they slap on, the more people will come out because each person will have their friends. But it just becomes a clusterfuck, and the night is just like a mixed up Jenga board. It's just like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, look, they're trying to, up one each other. The next DJ is like, oh, I'm going to push, the master level up. Thank God for sound engineers now in proper clubs. When it's redlining, the engineer will do their thing so it doesn't happen. But, just in like local clubs, always redlining. Like, can you not see it's redlining? Can you not hear it's clipping?
Yeah.
Please stop it. And like, why are you playing 130 beats per minute at 10:30 at night? Like,
that's my biggest pet peeve.
and then you see like videos of like, the people like warm-up DJs playing the headliners' records. That I'm just like, oh God, where do I throw up? Like, come on, that's what I mean with respect. Like, don't play the person's records, and unless you're mates with them, and then you go, hey, I'm going to play one of the remixes that that you've put out, But yeah, don't do that. That just makes you like.
Yeah, my biggest thing is the redlining. Sometimes I would go to a club and the sound engineer would be like, he'll pump it all the way up, and it's like literally just not even red. It's just like a brick wall red line. And I'm like, is that all right? He's like, yeah. I'm controlling it from the back, which sometimes they do. So for my biggest thing is like you said, like if it sounds clipping in my headphones, that's when I know I gotta trim it back. But some of these clubs nowadays, they got they're controlling it themselves, so they're pulling up the levels from the back, and the mixer's just like brick walled red line the whole time. But then again, it gives you no room to know how much you can play with because you don't know where the levels are going because you just see red across the board. So it doesn't create that as just like the music, volume creates emotions and creates peaks and valleys. So if you don't have that leverage to play, that's one less tool in your toolbox to work with. So.
I mean, for you, obviously, like DC. I mean, for me, going to college in Savannah, I was able to go to Atlanta, Orlando, massive prog scene, Gainesville, Simons, and then I went to DC for Buzz, Scott Henry, and it was just, again, Buzz was such a vibe. Like, the people were there for the music. It was just the underworld parties were just off the scale. I mean, for you, I mean, obviously, playing your house parties, playing your high school proms and stuff, and then, because that's when the rave scene started to, come up in the US, and I was so surprised by it, because coming from the UK, massive in the UK, I expected nothing here. So when I went to Atlanta and DC and Orlando, I was like, holy crap, this is amazing, because I was hearing tunes that were played back home. So, and I'm just going, how are they getting these tunes? And then, the record shops, I was like, oh my God, it's like being back in Liverpool. I can get the same stuff here that I can back home. So that opened a whole new world and a whole new friendship. So for you, your next step, obviously playing raves.
Yeah. For me, one of the first raves, it was called Catastrophic. It was a production company. This is before Buzz and Scott Henry doing their thing. Catastrophic was throwing little parties like in warehouses. They were doing the 930. Now it's called the 930 Club. Back then it was called the Worst Radio. It was like a big warehouse. People would just rent it out, throw a party. So one of my first real rave was at a warehouse with the Catastrophic production. That was like a mind-blowing experience because I had just graduated from high school, so I was getting ready to go to college. I was just barely getting into like I was already playing house music and stuff, but like Sonic got finding out what rave music is all about. And then, somehow we stumbled on this rave, and there were people, just the friendliest people I've ever met, the nicest people, no drama. Everybody's there for the music. And this is like, before I even knew what partying was, like all that stuff. This is just like, it's all about the music. I just want to listen to good music. We're like complete straight edge. Wasn't even drinking at that point. Like, people in high school, they start drinking, whatever. But for me, it's strictly for the music. So we would go to these parties. I would stand right next to the DJs, watch them mix all these like rave records on turntables, on 1200s. And then that's when I started like, okay, I need to up my game, figure out what I need to do. I had a buddy of mine who was selling his 1200s. He's a friend of my sister. He's like, I'm no longer doing this, so I bought his 1200. So that's when my things really upped everything. So I got the 1200s. I was already mixing on really crappy realistic turntables, bell driven with the pennies on them. Getting the Techniques 1200s. It was like butter, man. Everything was like, I was touching things. Nothing was skipping. Nothing was moving. So it was like going from a really crappy car to like a Lamborghini, and it's like, oh my God, everything works so flawlessly. So it's like I'm over prepared for this type of thing, because I'm gently touching things. So I started buying more rave records. I started buying like more house tracks. Started giving out mixtapes in DC, like at Fifth Column, The Vault. Tracks. I got a residency at a club, Tracks, one of the biggest clubs in DC. I don't know if you remember Tracks. It was right where Buzz used to be by Nations. So I got a residency there, and that was probably the biggest part of my career where I learned how to build a set from beginning to end, because that residency gave me a chance to play. I started at 10 p.m. and I finished at 6 a.m. No opener, no closer. It was me from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it was every Friday night. So for a whole year residency, every Friday night, got to play 8+ hours all by myself. So I learned how to build a night from beginning to end. And that really made me like understand what the music, like how to build a night, how to keep things consistent, how to keep people on the dance floor from beginning to end. So that opened up a whole bunch of new doors for me. And then, I played Buzz with Scott Henry a few times at Saeed and Palesh. I also played Velvet Nation, which was a Saturday night at Nations where they did Buzz. So I played that a few times. But yeah, man, I at that point, I was playing pretty much every club in DC, not on the same weekend, but like different here and there. So it wasn't like a residency. I had the Tracks residency, but I was also playing like Fifth Column 1 month. I'll play The Vault. I'll play a bunch of different clubs, but it gave me a lot of chance to really practice and get more music, buy more music, going to 12-inch records, going to Music Now. This was all before Yoshitoshi opened up their record store, Deep Dish opened up their record store. And yeah, the bus times was some of the best times, going to hear Sasha and Digweed, which, I heard all about. I never really got to hear him. Carl Cox Buzz was the first time I ever got to hear Carl Cox. This was like in 95, 96, I think. But yeah, like the rave scene just exploded after that. And it's funny because I was watching a documentary, well, not documentary, I was watching a podcast with Frankie Bones the other day and learning about how, how he played such a huge part in the rave scene. I knew of Frankie back then. Like we crossed paths a bunch of times. We played the same rave, but like learning about how much he had input in bringing the rave scene from UK to the US, it was mind blowing for me. Like, I gave him much props for all the stuff that he's done. And it's like wild to learn like how many things, a lot of stuff he spoke about, I was there and I was like, oh man, so he had something to do with this. I didn't even know. So it's kind of cool to see like how the movement came from the UK here, and he had such a huge impact of making that transition happen, and me being a part of to playing those transitions, which is kind of cool to see it all kind of come together.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, I think back in the day, like, there was healthy competition between DJs, different states. I mean, New York, you had Frankie, Adam X, James Christian, the Caffeine Boys, the Smile Communication, DC, and you had the Orlando, the Prog Boys and everything, and Icy, the Breaks, everything. But there was healthy competition. And I just feel now it's more like, you know, I'm going to put the knife in your back because I want that, you know. While back in the day, it was a bit more like, you know, show your worth, you know, on the decks and stuff. And, you know, that I think it's changed on that part. But like, do you remember the first time you got booked in a different state?
Yeah, dude, the first time I got booked wasn't even a different state; it was a different country.
Oh, wow. Even
That
better.
was Yeah, we went. We got booked in Estonia, out of all places. Yeah, so like we put out our first record. So I was up until the like 1998. I was just playing locally in DC, Virginia, and Maryland. So like we call it the DMV. So DC, Virginia, Maryland. I was constantly like getting booked here. Palash and I decided to launch Addictive Records in 1998. We put out our first record, and out of the blue, we got a promoter in Estonia saying, "We want to book you guys to come and play." And you know, I've never even flown like in anywhere in the US to play. And we took the gig. The guy didn't offer a lot of money, but he's like, "Look, you can stay here for a week. I'll take care of all your hotel and all your food. Come do it as a vacation. We want you to play this massive warehouse." We went to Estonia. The flight was brutal. I remember it was the scariest flight of my life. The turbulence, the thunder, the rain. We get to Estonia, and it was during winter time, so there's like sunlight only maybe a few hours a day, so it was always fucking dark, and we were there for a whole week dying because there was no sunlight. And the hotel he put us in, he said, "I'm going to take care of all your food for the week." The place had a buffet, and it was the same freaking buffet every single day for a week. And so it was like, Jesus. But then again, you know, like this is our first time in another country. We get there. The party was fucking phenomenal, though. Like it was amazing. It was a big warehouse. He had dancers. He had like body art show. They had not circus, but people were doing like different things, like fire dancers and things like that. And it was really wild because like I've only seen this with the Catastrophic, the guys in DC that were doing Catastrophic production, but now I'm here in Estonia, almost in a similar vibe. Beautiful people. I was like the shortest dude there. Everybody's like 6 foot tall, and just like everybody's like either wearing goth black or like ravers and stuff. But I actually have a VHS video of it. I was gonna like rip it and put it up of that first party of in Estonia. But that was it. That was the first party. Me and Palash went there, and we were like, "What the hell? This is so crazy!" And we stayed in Estonia for a week, and came back to the US, telling everybody about it. And after that, after our first release on Addictive Record, which was the gateway release, we called it. Everything started blowing up from there. The phones started ringing. We put our name on the record as Saeed and Palash, not knowing that it's going to become a duo. We were never intended to be a duo. It's just we didn't have a band name. We didn't know what to go with. We're like, all right, we'll just call it Saeed and Palash. I'm Saeed, you're Palash. But then people just took away with that. So the first flyer in Estonia was Saeed and Palash, and we just decided to run with it. So that's how the Saeed and Palash came about. It was never really anything planned as being a band or Sasha and Digweed or anything else. So let's just go with Saeed and Palash, and it just took off from there. And yeah, that's how it kind of started for us.
Well, it's crazy to think too, like, but back in the day, like, so many good US record labels at that time, you know, and I loved it because they were only like $5 for a 12-inch, while the imports were 10. So, you know, the more domestic records that were good, I was buying them. I mean, yourselves, you know, Sandos, Good Lord Tango, Siesta, were all putting out like quality tracks, you know, West Coast, East Coast, in the middle. You know, in the middle, you had the Midwest. It was more, like Woody McBride, you know, ESP. That was like the harder stuff that I didn't really get into, but like, you know, there was just so much going on. Like every city had a really good rave scene, you know, and people would travel. Like, I mean, for me, again, you know, when I moved to Texas too, New Orleans was the place to be at the State Palace Theater. Like, it was just insanity, you know, and obviously, you know, I could tell stories and stories about that place, just seeing the people doing crazy stuff. It reminds me a little bit of Bergheim in Germany as well. Just stuff that goes on that just shouldn't go on, but it does, you know. But it was a healthy time, you know, because like I said, everybody had kind of each other's back, even though they had their own little crews, you know, the Caffeine Boys, the Smile Boys, the West Coast crew, you know, they were all good to each other. You know,
Yeah.
it
It reminds you of, like, you know how skaters are, like skateboarders.
yeah.
Everybody's like, there's a commensurate, like, hey man, like they all clap, they're all rooting to each other. That's how we were back in the day as DJs. I feel that art is completely lost nowadays too. It's like you said, it's a bit of a competition always, regardless of who you are and where you are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think because it was new, people understood, like, okay, we've got to grow this, because I don't think it's a scene. I think it's a culture. It's rave culture, you know. I think everybody who was involved wanted to grow it, you know, and then the money started to take over, and, you know, promoters who really didn't give two shits about the rave scene, you know, were like, I can make money. Then the drug dealers, I can make money. That's where I think, you know, the rave scene just kind of started to go, you know, back underground, and then, you know, it was kind of back in the clubs again, you know, and it's nice because, you know, then clubs started to go, okay, I've got to start, you know, having a better sound system, because the one I got is just clang, clang, clang. You're not really hearing, all you hear is bass. You know, you weren't hearing the highs or the mids or nothing. It was just bass, and that was just too much. But I mean, for you, obviously, you know, there's only so much like you can DJ where you're like, okay, I need to start production, you know, and that's where, you know, I think for you, you just nailed it. I mean, again, I love that tribally sound, and you've nailed it. And I mean, people can go, all sounds the same, but it doesn't. Like when you have an ear that really listens to music, it's not the same, you know. Like it just isn't. Like I mean, I can say, close my eyes, put a Peace Division track on that, you know, somebody will play it. I know that's Peace Division. I know that's Saeed. I know that's Sasha. I know that's Digweed. You know, I don't need to see the label. I know what it is. And, you know, some people, I think with the tribal stuff, it was a bit oversaturated at times. You know, people were taking like your sound and going, oh, I'm going to recreate that, you know, and that was getting too much. I mean, whenever there's, you know, certain, like we talk about genres, and it's oversaturated. I mean, you look at Beatport, 10,000 tracks a day are coming out, you know, and it does get oversaturated, and you have to listen to 99% crap before you get to that 1%, like, holy crap, that's good, you know. But for you as a producer, you know, I mean, it's a big thing to have your own record label as well. I mean, Addictive, you know, that's a big thing to have it out there, because, again, that's your baby. You know, you're going to get plaudits, and you're also going to get people that go, God, what a load of crap, you know. Yeah, so you got to have a hard head, you know. If you're putting stuff out in the world, then expect to get some not so good reviews, and it's how you deal with it. You know, you go, okay, you know, you can either get online, you know, and go back and forth to the person that's going, your stuff's a load of crap. What's the point? You know? Yeah.
I've learned my lesson with that. Yeah, and like I said, in this business, man, you got to wear a rhino skin. You know, it's the only way. It's the only way to do it. And to your point about the genre thing, yeah, I agree. Like, some people will always say, yeah, the stuff sounds the same and whatever, but you got to think about, like, our music, especially the tribal stuff. and us as humans, it's music is like a mantra. So it's like the rhythm repeats itself, but it's something. It's like a heartbeat. You have to have that. It's repetitive for a reason. That's why people get into a trance, because if it's constantly changing, like the music nowadays, because everybody's so ADHD and like, oh, it's got. That's why people aren't like just like subtle. They're not like moving in a nice slow pace. Everybody's like, it's like a dopamine hit. Gotta give it to me. Gotta give it to me. So, and also to your point, like we had, the tribal was different. Like if you hear stuff like Hippie and Halo was making out on the West Coast, that tribal was different than the tribal you'd hear on the East Coast. Like then you have the circuit tribal, which is the gay kind of tribal, the Star 69 tribal. There's different kind of tribal. Like our Addictive Record tribal was like across from between. You've got the gay circuit tribal, but we grabbed a little bit from the East Coast. I mean, from the West Coast, but we also had the prog in it too. So it's like tribal proggy kind of stuff. So it was very distinct, and like you said, like you would hear one person, their style, or one label, they had a certain style, but it was tribal nonetheless. But it definitely had its unique signature, and I think each artist had their own little touch to it, which I think made it really interesting, especially when as a DJ you playing tribal and you had all this different. You have the West Coast tribal, East Coast tribal, and you're trying to blend it all together to create your own tribal story in a way. I thought it was really dope, and I think that's probably why I liked it so much. I love the repetitive stuff, and that drew me closer to minimal tech too, because I love just stripped down stuff. In my opinion, the hardest music to make is the minimal stuff, because you have to create a track that's 7 to 8 minutes long. That's minimal, but you have to keep it interesting somehow. And that for me is probably the hardest thing to do, but by little subtle, changes, not adding too much, a lot of automation going on at the bottom to kind of make it sound. So that kind of, I'm drawn to less is more type of a dance music. So the less it has, the more I appreciate it, the more I like it, the more it puts me in a mental and physical mantra state of dancing and meditative state, if you want to call it that. So,
well, we've got to talk about Celeda, the underground. It was like, I heard every DJ, prog DJs, tech DJs, techno DJs, they all played it. The story behind it infuriates me. So I can't imagine what it does to you. So I kind of know the story. I don't know if everyone knows the story, but would you like to tell it for us?
Yeah, of course. So the track you're talking about is a track that came out, I believe 2001, 2002 on Star 69 Records. So the beginning of the story goes, Peter Rawhofer approached me and Palesh, telling us that there's this track that he wants to get a remix done for, and it's a track by Celeda. This was after Music is the Answer had blown up and stuff other Celeda was doing. So obviously when we heard it's working with Celeda, we're like, yeah, 100%, we want to do it. So Peter Rawhofer sends me the acapella. It mails it in the mail in a CD. We weren't doing like email stuff back then, so I get a CD in the mail with her vocals. So I get the vocals, I listen to it, I say, that's great. I was like, you said you want us to do a remix. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, can I hear the original? Because I always like to hear the original to see what I can do. I don't want to do the same thing, or maybe there's a unique sound or element in the original. I was like, yeah, can you send me this sound? Maybe the bass line is dope and I want to use it, or maybe do so. So we get a message from Peter. He's like, the original is almost done. It's not done yet. I'm gonna be the one doing the original, but I'll send it to you as soon as I can. So the contracts comes over to our management team. They look it over and they went ahead and signed off on it as being, a remix. So okay, we're gonna get the remix, but we're gonna hear the remix before. I mean, we're gonna hear the original before I send out the remix. So we send out the remix. So with Celeda, basically at that point, my studio was in my parents' basement, where Palesh would come over. We're in my basement. We will work on some tracks in the basement and send it out. So for the Celeda, I started the project in the basement, put the beats together, the bass line. All this time, I'm still waiting for Peter. I mean, the remix didn't take that long back then, maybe 2 weeks at the most, you know. So at the same time, every time I'm sending messages to Peter about, hey, I really want to hear the original because I want to see, you know, what if there's any elements that we can use or whatever, because all I have is the acapella right now. So this feels more like an original production than a remix at this point. Because back then, remixes, when they send you a remix, they will send you a whole pack, the instruments, everything. So it was weird for us. We just got the vocals. So, you know, and I've worked with Peter before, so I didn't think anything of it. I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and finish it up, blah, 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 put our name on it. And we send the package to management. Management sends it off to Star 69 Records. And then Star 69, to make a long story short, Star 69 decides to put out the release as a remix, as under addictive. It was addictive mix. They didn't even like bother put Saeed and Palesh or anything. It just put addictive mix. And the whole time we're like, wait a minute. I asked my eyes, I was like, where's the original? Because the original was supposed to come out, then our remix was supposed to. I mean, the whole point, what Peter had told me, I'll put out my original with Celeda, the Underground, then yours will be next afterward, or it'll be on the flip side. We get the record, it had the addictive mix, and the other side had a completely different track by Peter Rohofer. It was I think it was Reach For Me, or was it Reach For Me? I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank now. But it did have this, the Underground, had another track by Peter Rohofer. So I call up management. I was like, hey, what's going on here? Our remix came out, but there was no original on the flip side. It's a completely different track. They're like, okay, let's call Peter, find out what's going on. Call Peter, we don't get an answer from him, blah, blah, blah. And he gets back to me personally. It's like, I never got a chance to make the original, you know, and you guys beat me to the punch, so I'm just putting out your remix. So to me, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And at that time, it was already in Billboard #1. So our mix came out as #1 in the dance chart on Billboard. So with that happening and our credit showing that we're the remixers, we get like absolutely no credit as the original artist, the producing artist. We didn't get any publishing, nothing. We got stripped of all that stuff. Till this day, I'm still fighting this because of a bad contract written by signed by management. So he never put out an original. Then he started putting out all these other remixes afterward. So an original was never released by Peter Rohofer as promised, and ours was supposed to be the remix. So in hindsight, our remix is the original mix because there was no other mix before it. So we got really stripped. We got really stripped from all the credits that we should have gotten. And I look at mixes like I'm actually, as we're doing this, I'm talking with the people from the DJ Vibe compilation because they have him as the original artist on it, and I need them to fix that. And he's got over 2 million streams on the DJ Vibe, and we're getting 0 credits, 0 royalties, or nothing for it. On a 2 million screen, I looked it up, that's at least $10,000 that we're not getting a penny of because of a flaw done back in 2000, and we were stripped of all our credits, including publishing, writer credit, writer as far as the song goes, the production. Celeda definitely wrote the lyrics. That's all her. She's part of the writer. But, you know, the production part, the music, we're the writers. We're also, we have the writer, and we're supposed to get some of the publishing, and we also are the artists. So it's supposed to be Celeda, Saeed, and Palesh present the Underground. But that you live and learn, man.
Well, that's the thing with the music business, isn't it? Like you hear of so many like musicians getting screwed over because one, they either didn't read the fine print, or they just get screwed over by the record label, and that's just horrible because that can, you know, we talk about mental health as well these days. You know, I think it's talked about more now, which is good. But back in the day, you know, that could put you in a depressive state. You know, you're just like, this is something I did, and I'm not getting the recognition for it. But kudos to you, you carried on. You know, you just say, well, I mean, what can you do? You know, I mean, it is horrible, and I'm glad you're still fighting it, as you should. You know. And it's just, yeah, it just puts a bad taste in your mouth. I mean, especially when you know it was being played everywhere.
Not only that, it's my till this day. It's my only #1 on Billboard Dance, and I can't have my name on it, which is like that. That's the biggest hurt in me. It's not everybody's playing it, everybody's remixing it. It's not the stream. It's having a Billboard #1, which is like it's a huge deal to artists, and it doesn't have your name on it. It doesn't say your name, which sucks.
Yeah, it's got to. So, I mean, for you, you and Palesh put out so many records. Was it a point where you just both decided, like, okay, I kind of want to go in this direction. He wanted to go in another direction. Because I know, what was it, like 2004? You called it quits as a duo.
Yeah.
So was it just that?
There was so much going on. As you probably remember, 2003, 2004 was a hard year for the industry in music. We were obviously putting out a lot of records. We had an office. We had employees. We were doing like we were running Addictive Records like a legit business. We had accountants. We had payroll. But in 2003, we're starting to see more records come back from distributor than us sending them records to put out. So we're getting boxes of returns, like they're unable to sell that stuff. And this is just right around the time when Napster came out, and everybody was file sharing, downloading stuff for free. And this whole gloom and doom of the end of the record industry was all over the news. So so between that, me and Palesh also kind of started seeing differently in the music. Like we had different visions of where we wanted to take the brand as well. So we were together since 1998, and we're starting to see the records coming back. We aren't able to pay some of the bills for. We had to let go of our employee. We had a label manager that. He was a great guy. It was sadly to let him go because he was so passionate about like helping, making sure the label goes well. Till this day, it kills me that we had to let him go, but we had no choice because we were just like, we're literally taking the money that we're touring with to pay our label manager, to pay the office, to pay everything that's not making money for us. So we're taking food from our own table to pay for something that we just didn't know it was going to succeed. So it was a lot of going on. It's a lot of drama. It's like between that, where we wanted to be, where we wanted to go. So we just we sat down. We look. Let's just give ourselves a break, and we'll do our own thing, and we'll see what happens. So we decided to kind of stop the label. Obviously, wasn't making money. Cut off the whole duo site and Palesh thing, and kind of focus our own projects and see where it take us. We both wanted to do our own thing, and I think. Like everything in the world, nothing lasts forever. There's a chapter in everything. And we decided to kind of call it quits then. And, I kind of stayed the path that started, wanted to make music. I had, at that time, already incorporated my last name for my own personal production under Younan Music. And I didn't know if I was going to launch another label because I didn't know what was going on. I knew I didn't want to do a vinyl label with everything going on with Napster. I had approached by Beatport in 2004. I was in Denver playing a gig. I believe, I can't remember. It must have been vinyl. I can't remember. But Beatport, one of the guys at Beatport approached me with a paper PowerPoint presentation back then, just like a sheet of paper. He said, "I'll meet you in the lobby. We have some exciting stuff happening. I want to meet with you, see what you think." So I sat down with them in my hotel lobby. They had a PowerPoint and said, "Look, we're going to launch a legitimate digital store to find all this stuff that's going on. It's going to be called Beatport, and we would love to bring Addictive Records and do it." I was like, "Look, man, we're not doing Addictive Records anymore. We decided to scrap it, but I'm really thinking of starting a digital label and doing it because we had signed so many artists on Addictive Records ahead of time." That when we stopped Addictive Records, they had no avenue to put out their music. So I wanted to still put out their music because they're still under contract. And they're good friends of mine. So I was like, I'm going to put your stuff out digitally. I don't have a label. I'm going to put it under my incorporation name, which was Younan Music. So I signed up Younan Music on Beatport in 2004, I believe, as not like a label. It's just something to have out there. But, 2004 until now, 2026, Younan Music is still the label. which was never meant to be a label. It was just my corporation name, and I'm still putting out music. So yeah, so like that's where we fell apart. But then an opportunity just fell in my lap in Denver, and from there, I'm like a new light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, this could be something. And started putting out music on Beatport, and Beatport Track Source approached us. Then I got with In-Groove Distribution, and yeah, and till this day, the label Addictive Records or Younan Music, it's been like a labor of love. Like it's not where I make a lot of money or artists make money, but it's just an avenue to promote other artists, promote my music. I don't have to wait for other labels to approve my stuff. I can, if I have something I think it's dope and I want to put out, I can just throw it on my label. And it's been that vision since day one. And the vision of the label is always to look after the younger artists who are not so big yet, but will, to give them just a place to put out their music, and they can go off and sign to Hot Creations or whatever other label. But it's always been a label to champion the smaller guys who are just trying to come up. So if you look at the label, Younan Music, you'll notice a lot of artists, they're either have blown up now or they're new artists who are just trying to make it. And it's been like that since day one. And I enjoy doing that because it gets me to discover and work and create and do creative stuff with the younger generation. It keeps my sound fresh too, because it keeps me in the game and figuring out, okay, what is the young generation doing and how I can work with them and collaborate with them. So it works in two folds. It's for me personally as a creative outlet, and for others, and also for me to work with that new creative younger outlet and put out more music. So yeah, man, that's the direction I end up going with.
Well, I mean, I think young producers need labels like that because, when you make music, a lot of people go, okay, I'll send it to this label. They've got the label on a pedestal, like you said, Hot Creations, or, back in the day, Hoots Tunes, for the progsters, like that's the label. And they send it and they get nothing back, or they get, nah, we don't, and they just cave in. They're just like, oh, that's it. If I'm not on that label, I'm not good enough, which is wrong because there's a label for everyone, And I always promote like Bandcamp. I love Bandcamp because there's a lot of labels there that are independent labels from independent artists, and you can go down the rabbit hole and find incredible stuff. Beatport, a lot of it's your main stuff, but like for young producers to have like an outlet like your label is brilliant. Where it's like, look, yes, I'll take your track. I'll help you as much as I can, and then it's got to feel good for yourself later on down the line. Not, they'll get to a how do I say that? I'm not trying to like disrespect your label at all, but go to like a main label. It's got to make you feel kind of good, like the granddad of going, well done, lad, or well done, lass. That's what it's about. Is
like
helping
teaching your child how to bike on a bicycle, and then riding the Tour de France. It's like that's fine. Yeah. I'm proud of you, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, seeing them off in the sunset, it's been great. But yeah, I mean, we need more labels like that give opportunity to bands, to producers, where they don't get like a door slammed shut in their face every time, because that does hurt, Yeah.
I mean, I've had labels where I know 100% they're going to get this track. Like, it's like I'm not going to name any labels, but I've made some stuff where like, there's no way they're going to turn this down, but they turn it down. And it's like, you just have to keep your head high and, keep going. But I've had like in my 30 years, if you count before even like the label of the amount of music. The first record I ever put out was back in 1994, which was with a buddy of mine. I don't know if you remember, Thievery Corporation.
Of course, yeah.
And so Rob Garza used to do techno before he became Thievery Corporation. My first record was with him. It was on a label called Juju Thievery Corporation. So he took out the Juju and kept Thievery Corporation and did his thing. But I learned about making records from back then, but then after that, shopping records to labels, like to Strictly Rhythm, I was to Twisted Records, but thankfully Twisted later took my Music Is the Answer remix, which is a huge accomplishment for me. But I sent so much stuff to Twisted Records. It was always a no, no, no. And it's like, man, and it gets to you after a while. It's a mental game. It's a mind fuck, because you're like, like you said, am I not good enough for this? But then you go to another label and they love the exact track that Twisted might have turned down or Strictly might have turned down. They're like, we love to put this out. We'll offer you this amount of money. And back then, advances were so awesome. That's a whole other, it doesn't even exist nowadays. They used to get a nice fat check for an advance back then.
You pay them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes you have to end up paying them. Exactly. Well, that's what the whole point they did. They give you this fat check, and then you'll get statements with negatives afterward at the end. You owe us money. But yeah, man, it's hard
when those checks bounce.
Oh, I haven't had that issue, but I'm sure it happens.
Well, I mean, we live in a whole different, social media world now, and like, I used to play all the raves and clubs back in the day, but if you're not a well-established DJ, a promoter, they look at how many followers you have on your Instagram, on Twitter, all that nonsense, and that does drive me crazy, because again, there's so many good DJs out there not getting these gigs because they don't have the followers. Because, I had Dave Clark on last week, absolute legend. And I love how he talks about the business. He's like, sometimes I'm embarrassed to call myself a DJ right now, because the DJing that I know is not the DJing what is now, And I agree with it, because it just seems like there's a separation, and I don't want to be that granddad, on my rocking chair going, back in our day was much better, because it's the kids now, it's their time. So I'm not going to say like our days was better. We just went about things differently than they do now. The attention span is different. We have 3-minute records now, and some of them seem too long for people. I'm of the era where 8 to 10 minutes seem not long enough. So there's that massive difference, and I just feel like the scene needs just a bit of a recharge, and just kind of go, okay, let's get back to the days where it was music first, not this like persona of a rock star, like, oh, let's throw flowers at them, let's throw like money at them and stuff.
If you remember back in the day, the DJ was tucked away in a corner. No one even knew who or what he was or where he was. Yeah. Now it's like center stage, which I don't like at all. It's like, and everybody's staring at you. It's like, just dance. I'm not an animal, zoo animal in a zoo, It's like, just dance. That's kind of weird. I still can't wrap my head around that. The whole people just looking at you while you're DJing.
Yeah, well, I think that's why you have so many of these DJs turning these knobs, because people are staring at them and are expecting them to kind of do something. So they're just kind of like playing hot potato, and you're just like, I know, and they're not doing anything with that mixer. You just know, because you're not hearing any difference coming out the speakers. But to people that are just there, they're just like, oh my God, what is he doing? What's she doing? Oh, they're blowing my mind. They're not really doing anything, and then you get the people who are hopping around the stage and jumping. That's sacrilegious to me. You've got your decks there. It's like putting a drink next to you. You don't jump next to the equipment. I just look at these people going, what are you doing? And then a microphone, I'm like, what are we at the school disco? Hey, how's everybody doing?
The only two people who I think are the right people for the microphone was Danny Tinagli and Carl Cox. And they were very minimal at doing it. And also Danny, like, remember back in the day when Danny had those 2 huge spotlights and he'll shine? Like that was our dead mouse back in the day. That's Like that is the most you would see a DJ do, but it was so cool. It's very minimal. He'll go out, he'll shine a light at a breakdown with a drum roll, and then he puts it away. But that was like, it was cool. But now you have to go above and beyond to entertain, be in the booth, hands in the air, like you said with the mixers, like you're constantly, it's like the music is almost secondary now. It's like, what do I need to do to keep these people looking at me entertained, like I'm a circus clown or whatever, you know?
But you've not only got people looking at you that way, you've got half the club behind you in the booth. Now, we all know back in the day, I know I keep harping on that, but there was you and your records and a mate or two, and that's it. Like, I'm sorry, but especially vinyl, you were like, nobody's coming in this booth because
nobody really wanted to be in the booth. Nobody wanted to get into the booth. There wasn't like how we have now. It's somebody has to be at the booth waiting. It's like nobody really cared about being in the booth like they do nowadays, which is weird, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's going back to that, the influencer, the TikToker, they have to have a video taken, you know, with the DJ, like, there, like, oh, I was there. You don't see them dancing, you just see them there, you know? Yeah. It's the same with, like, Boiler Room. Boiler Room, like, 10 years ago, used to be cool, you know? Used to have acts that you never really see. I mean, I saw Tom York DJ. Wasn't very good, but his song choices were really cool. But it was a cool vibe. Now, Boiler Room, it's there goes the brand again, you know, and that's taken over. Then you have people that can't DJ on it, like and people, I'm sorry, I mean, with the technology that we have, nobody should train wreck. Nobody. But yet, you know, on Boiler Room, there's people train wrecking and the backspin. Please stop. Just stop. For the love of God. I mean, backspin for me is like drum and bass, some dubstep. But I mean, you can backspinning on prog house, tribal house, techno. I'm like, oh my God, please stop. Please stop it. Again, I'll be called out like, you're just an old fart that, you know, trying to tell us how to live our lives. I'm not trying to tell you. I just don't like it.
Like you said earlier, though, you know, like every time a big brand comes in and takes over, or the corporate, or becomes money involved, you can date that all the way back to the hip hop, like how hip hop was underground. And all of a sudden, corporation got a hold of it. It became a big money thing. As soon as money gets into the game, it just shits on everything. It happened with disco. It happened with house music, rave. You know, everything. It's something about it, but there's got to be like a leverage. It's got to be a place where people can make money, can live a life doing what they love without having corporate influence or influencers step in and try to act like something that they're not, because it's the flavor of the month type of bullshit, you know?
Well, you know, you have to juggle not only being a DJ and a producer, but a social media person. You've got to, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, I mean, Dave Clark said as well, he's like, look, we're DJs, we're producers. Social media.
I admit, I've been practicing more learning how to edit video than I am mixing, which sucks, you know? It's like, that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah, but that's the thing. For people to know who you are, you have to have the social media accounts, and you have to post God knows how many times a day, you know, to kind of be in that algorithm. It's the same with the podcast as well. You know, I wouldn't have a Twitter account if I didn't have a podcast. I don't like Twitter because I think it's very toxic. You know, it's people behind keyboards saying horrible things because it's rage bait. You know, I have no time for that. Instagram, a little bit better, but it's still kind of the same. You know, you've got to have a viral video, you know, that's a million views to kind of really get out there if you're brand new. And that's not what we're about, you know. It's about just creating art and getting it out there. But, you know, some people love the social media. You know, my mate Jody loves it, you know. He loves making videos, and I'm like, well, good for you. He's Jody Wisternoff, way out west. You know, he loves doing that. Me, you know, I just don't like putting up, like, you know, having I have 4 kids, so I don't really want to spend another 2 hours doing a video for Instagram every night. Just
You have to edit these videos that you make for this podcast.
My wife does the editing, so the great thing is most of the episodes we don't have to edit because they just flow, just like ours. Unless there's like a lull or something, then there'll be an edit or there's a break between me asking you a question and we brain fart, and then yes, there's an edit. But most 99%, not much editing, which is great for my wife. So, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine like just having to do. Well, I mean, if you're a tier 1 and 2 DJ producer, you don't have to do social media because you have a social media manager who does it for you. So that's the perk of that. But yeah, I just think we need to get back to the love of just music and going out and enjoying, like seeing a DJ that you've never heard of before, like supporting your local DJ who does his or her best 3-4 nights a week to play the music that they love. We got to support the local scene instead of just going out when a top DJ comes to town.
Yeah.
It's just
we got to come back, like get back to our roots of just like everybody supporting everybody, especially the DJs. The younger cats or the ones who are kind of going, it's not to compete with the headliner. That's not what they're there for. It's like, I've gone to gigs where like people will bash the headliner or will get the opener will get his peeps to bash the headliner so they can get better giggings. Oh, the opener was so much better. It's it's not a competition. Like I said earlier, it all has to work together. It's like a nucleus. It's like it all has to come together and work together to create an amazing vibe. And it's sad that sometimes you come across people who don't see that. And I don't know, like you said, call us old, but it's just the way I think. But I think, and we need to get back to that.
Well, now I think, instead of like growing your DJing or production levels, people want to go from 0 to 10 in 2 seconds. They don't want to grow. They just want like the fame, or they want those top headlining gigs instead of working for it. Being an opener for 3-4 years, working your arse off. Production, putting out tracks, over and over again until you get signed by a top label. They just want straight to the top, and it doesn't work like that.
It reminds me of my favorite quote from Banksy. He's like, "Fame is a byproduct. You don't go to a restaurant to eat because you want to take a shit." Which is kind of.
I couldn't say it. I couldn't have said it better. Yeah, no, nailed it. So yeah, now Saeed, coming down to the good stuff as well. Any upcoming releases in the next few months?
Yeah, I have. Actually, next, is it this Friday? I think this Friday I have it. So I started this new series on my label called Drum Tracks. So it's kind of going back to my roots, kind of drummy tracks about 130 plus BPMs. So this is coming out on Younan Music. I'm releasing that next. It's going to come out this next, depending on when this podcast comes out. So that's going to come out July 3rd, whatever that first Friday of July. I've got that. I'm working on a couple of other side projects, some minimal stuff as well. And I'm not sure if I'm going to put that out myself or sign it to other labels. I've cut back on some remixes. Right now, since I relocated here in Nevada, I'm still trying to put my studio together. So I'm putting some stuff on the back burner until that gets going. I have a buddy of mine that has a studio here. He's actually on the World Cup tour, so he does sound engineering for them. He's got a dope studio here. He's actually used to be our engineer was Saeed and Palesh. He moved here. His name is Jim Duval. Amazing person. So we're supposed to get together in the studio, and I can hash out a lot of the projects that I've started that I can't do here yet. So I've got that, but yeah, just kind of getting situated. You know, I just got here about 2 months ago, so I'm still kind of putting the blocks together and networking and getting the studio up and running.
Well, I can't wait to hear the new releases. Like I said, Bandcamp for me is one of the best places to go because the artist usually gets, especially Bandcamp Friday, gets most of the money, which you make the music, you should get paid. You know, that's just the way it is. But you can go to saeedyounan.bandcamp.com, Beatport, all. I would say Juno. I used to love Juno, but Juno sadly shut down. So that's another, you know, music service that just shut down, which is sad. But Saeed, absolute pleasure having you on. Again, you know, like I said, I only have guests that I know a lot about. I respect you, and it's been an absolute honor to have you on. I wish you all the best. You know, hopefully when you come back to Texas, because Saeed is playing McAllen, hopefully you come to Austin or Dallas or Houston. It's a lot closer for me than driving that many hours as well. So yeah, Houston and Dallas is only 3 hours away for me. So it's a lot easier, especially with 4 kids. So yeah, but I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you everybody for listening. Please like, subscribe, put your notifications on. As I always leave you, please look after one another in this crazy world that we live in. There's too much bad stuff going on. Please stop being arseholes to one another. Please be nice, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.